I was there, kneeling on the cold floor of that hotel room, tears streaming down my face, when I saw something that would change my life forever. But how could a successful, divorced 34-year-old lawyer fall in love with the daughter of the maid who raised him? How could Ethan, I defy all judgment and follow my heart when everything conspired against this impossible love?
Story based on true events. Names, locations, and some facts have been altered to preserve the privacy of those involved.
You'll discover today how God uses the most unlikely people to teach us about true love, about letting go of pride, and about how sometimes we need to lose everything to find what truly matters. Comment below, have you ever had to choose between following your heart or what others expected of you? Because this story will touch on wounds you might not even know you have. It'll shake your certainties about love, status, and purpose. The smell of fresh coffee permeated the house that Saturday morning when everything began to fall apart. I was 30 years old, had a consolidated career as a lawyer, a beautiful wife, Jennifer, and a 6-year-old son who was my reason for living. My life was the definition of success in anyone's eyes. But nothing, absolutely nothing, prepared me for the call I received at 6 in the morning. It was from the hospital. Mom had suffered a massive heart attack during the night. When I arrived there, only a white sheet covered her lifeless body. I fell to my knees in that icy hallway, the strong smell of disinfectant burning my nostrils, the sound of medical equipment echoing like a macabre symphony. I lost my footing in that moment. I lost my guide, my counselor, my best friend. The funeral was a blur of sad faces and empty words of comfort. But there was someone there who was crying with a pain as deep as mine. Mrs. Mary, Donna Maria, the maid who had worked for my mother for over 15 years, that woman with calloused hands and a huge heart who taught me to tie my sneakers, who made the best chocolate cake in the world, who comforted me when I came home from school after fighting with classmates. She was devastated, tightly holding the hand of her daughter, Clara, Caroline, a timid 16-year-old girl with deep brown eyes and a frightened way of looking at the world. It was Jennifer who nudged me after the burial as I watched Mrs. Mary and Clara walk away toward the bus. "They have nowhere to go, Ethan. Your mother paid the rent for a small room in the back of the house. Now that the house is going to be sold?" I didn't need to think twice. That woman raised me as much as my own mother. "They're coming to work at our house," I said with a firmness that surprised even myself. Jennifer raised an eyebrow, but agreed. We had space, we could afford it, and it was the least I could do. Mrs. Mary and Clara moved in a week later. The small cottage in the back of our house was prepared for them. I remember the day they arrived, carrying 2 old suitcases and a cardboard box with a few belongings. Clara kept her eyes down, as if apologizing for existing. Her pronounced Southern accent, that shy demeanor, everything about her screamed displacement. "Thank you, Mr. Ethan, Dr. Carlos," Mrs. Mary said, and there were tears in her tired eyes. "You raised me, Mrs. Mary. It's the least I can do." And it was true. That woman had been my second mother. The following months were about adaptation. Clara was quiet, almost invisible. She did her job in silence, helped her mother, and in the rare moments I saw her, she quickly looked away. My son, Scott, Gabriel, 6 years old, was the only one who could draw some timid smiles from her. He adored her, constantly asked her to play with him, and she accepted with infinite patience. Jennifer, on the other hand, treated the two with a cold, professional courtesy. She was never rude, but she was never warm either. There was an invisible barrier, a line she made clear should not be crossed. I didn't think much about it at the time. I was immersed in work, trying to fill the void that Mom's death had left. And then, a year later, on a rainy Tuesday in May, everything changed again. I was at the office when my cell phone rang. It was Clara, and her voice was trembling, broken by panic. "Mr. Ethan, it's Mom. She fell. She's not moving right. I called the ambulance." I dropped everything and rushed home. When I arrived, the ambulance was already at the door. Mrs. Mary was lying on the kitchen floor, the left side of her face completely drooping, her eyes half closed, trying to speak, but only incomprehensible sounds coming out of her mouth. Clara was kneeling beside her, holding her hand, her face wet with tears. "It's a stroke," the paramedic said. "We need to take her now." I went with them to the hospital. Clara was in shock, trembling so much that I had to put my arms around her to warm her in the cold waiting room. "She'll be okay," I said, not knowing if it was true, just needing to believe it. The next 5 days were an hell of waiting. Clara practically lived at the hospital. I visited them whenever I could, brought food, clean clothes, words of comfort that seemed increasingly empty. Mrs. Mary never regained consciousness. On the fifth day, her heart simply stopped. I saw Clara break apart at that moment. She was only 17 years old and had just lost the only family she had. She threw herself onto her mother's body, sobbing in a heartbreaking way, screaming, "Mom, don't leave me. Please, don't leave me alone." I literally had to pull her out of there. She was so fragile in my arms, so broken, that I felt a deep pain in my chest. That girl had no one in the world. Her father was a violent alcoholic they had left behind in the South years ago. There were no uncles, grandparents, cousins, no one. On the day of Mrs. Mary's funeral, after everyone had left, Clara was sitting alone on the church bench, staring into space. I approached slowly and sat beside her. The silence was heavy, loaded with pain. "I have nowhere to go," she whispered finally, her voice so low I could barely hear it. "I have no one." I held her cold hand between mine. "You have a home, Clara. You stay with us. You'll take over your mother's job. You'll continue living in the cottage. You'll continue to be part of our family. You are not alone." She looked at me then, and there was so much gratitude, so much relief, so much fear mixed in her eyes that I felt a tightness in my chest. "Thank you, Mr. Ethan," she said, and for the first time, I saw a flicker of hope on her face. Life went on, but it was different. Clara took on Mrs. Mary's tasks with an impressive determination for someone so young. She cleaned, cooked, took care of Scott, and did everything with an almost obsessive perfection, as if wanting to prove she deserved to be there. But something was changing in my own life, cracks that I didn't want to see. Jennifer was distant. Conversations that once flowed naturally were now monosyllabic. The touch that was once constant was now rare. The nights were cold, not just because of the temperature, but because of the lack of connection. I tried to talk, tried to find out what was going on. "Is everything okay, honey?" I asked one night after Scott had fallen asleep. We were in the living room, she on the couch with her cell phone, me in an armchair with a case to read. "Everything's great, Ethan. I'm just tired." Always the same answer. The months dragged on like this, in a routine that seemed increasingly mechanical, less genuine. And then Clara turned 18. We had a small party, just the four of us. Scott insisted on baking a cake with her, and the two spent the whole afternoon in the kitchen, laughing and making a mess. Jennifer was physically present but absent in every other sense, always with that cell phone in her hand. 2 weeks after Clara's birthday, Jennifer asked to talk. It was a Friday night. Scott was sleeping and there was something in the air, a tension that made my stomach churn. "Ethan, I want a divorce." The words dropped like a bomb. I was paralyzed, trying to process what I had just heard. "What? Why? We can go to therapy. I don't want to try anything else. It's over. I don't love you anymore." The coldness with which she said it was worse than the words themselves. There was no emotion, no sadness. It was just a fact being stated. I tried to argue, tried to understand, but she was adamant. She wanted the separation, wanted to sell the house, wanted to divide everything and move on. The following weeks were a bureaucratic nightmare. Lawyers, paperwork, division of assets. I found a house with a cottage in the back, perfect for Scott to have his space when he came to visit on weekends. And then the question arose, what to do with Clara? "She's already of age," Jennifer said with that practical, cold tone I had learned to hate. "She can choose where she wants to work, with me or with you." I called Clara to talk. She was nervous, wringing her hands, that anxious way she had when she was uncomfortable. "Clara, you can choose. You can continue working for Jennifer at her house, or you can come with me to my new house. The choice is yours." She looked at me for a long moment, and there was something in her eyes that I couldn't fully decipher. "I want to go with you, Mr. Ethan." "Are you sure? You don't have to feel obligated." "I'm sure." And so, 2 months after the divorce request, Clara and I moved into the new house. Scott would stay with me every weekend and some Thursdays. The rest of the time, it was just me and Clara. The first few months were strange. The house seemed too big, too silent. Clara continued her work with the same efficiency as always, but there was a new dynamic between us. We were no longer just boss and maid. We were two lonely people sharing the same space, two wounded souls trying to rebuild their lives. I went back to work with an almost manic intensity. I took every case I could, stayed late at the office, came home exhausted. It was my way of not thinking, of not feeling. But Clara was always there when I arrived, with dinner ready, the house tidy, a kind word. "You need to rest, Mr. Ethan," she always said. "You can't keep up this pace." "I'm fine, Clara. Don't worry." But I wasn't fine. I was destroyed inside, questioning everything in my life. Why had my marriage failed? Why hadn't I seen the signs? What had I done wrong? And then, about 6 months after the separation, I met Patricia. She was a client of a colleague, introduced to me at a law event, and there was instant chemistry. Brunette, pretty, a lawyer too, successful. We started dating, and within a few weeks, we were a couple. I took Patricia home for dinner one Friday. Scott was with Jennifer, so it would just be the three of us. Clara prepared a wonderful meal, as always, and served it with that educated discretion she had. But I noticed something different about her. She was tense, her movements were abrupt, and when Patricia complimented the food, Clara responded with a dry, almost rude, "Thank you." After Patricia left, I went to the kitchen where Clara was washing dishes with more force than necessary. "Did something happen, Clara?" "No, sir." "Are you sure? You were different today." She stopped washing the dishes and turned to me. There was something in her eyes, an intensity I had never seen before. "She's not good for you." I was surprised by her frankness. "Why do you say that?" "I just know. I feel it." And then she went back to washing the dishes, clearly ending the conversation. The relationship with Patricia lasted only 2 months. She was beautiful, intelligent, but something was missing. There was no depth, no real connection. It was all superficial, and I realized I was with her just to fill a void, not because I really wanted her. I ended it in an honest conversation, and she took it well. I think she felt the same way. When I told Clara that I had broken up with Patricia, I noticed a relief on her face that she tried to hide, but couldn't completely. I didn't comment on it, but it stayed in my mind, a seed of thought I wasn't ready to explore. Life returned to its routine. Work, Scott on weekends, silent meals with Clara, casual conversations about the day. I treated her with respect, as I always had, like a younger sister who needed to be protected. She was 20 years old now, was taking night classes for a business administration degree, always studying when she finished her work. And then, like a storm that gradually builds until it explodes with full force, depression hit me. It started subtly. A persistent sadness, a lack of energy, a disinterest in things that used to excite me. But it got worse. Suddenly getting out of bed was a battle. Going to work was torture. Smiling at Scott on weekends required a Herculean effort. There were days when I simply couldn't. I would lie there, staring at the ceiling, tears silently streaming down my face, not understanding why I was so broken, so empty, so lost. The world seemed gray, colorless, tasteless, meaningless. It was Clara who noticed first. One morning I hadn't left the room. It was almost 10 o'clock, and I was still lying down, without strength, without will. I heard a gentle knock on the door and her soft voice. "Mr. Ethan, are you okay?" "I'm just tired, Clara." She opened the door slowly. My face was turned to the wall. I didn't want her to see me like that. But she came in, sat on the edge of the bed, and just stayed there, in silence. After a long moment she spoke. Her voice was soft, but firm. "You're not okay, and it's okay not to be okay. But you can't be like this alone." I turned to look at her, and she saw the tears on my face, the defeat in my eyes. I expected to see pity, but what I saw was understanding. "I don't know what's happening to me," I admitted, my voice breaking. I can't anymore." "I know what that's like," she said. "When my mother died, I felt the same way. It felt like I had fallen into a bottomless pit, but I found a light." She hesitated, biting her lip. "Can I say something that maybe you don't want to hear?" "You can. I think this depression is a sign. Your spirit is screaming that something is wrong, that you're doing something wrong, or failing to do something important. God wants to talk to you." Normally, I would have dismissed that. I wasn't religious. I had been baptized Catholic as a child, but I had never taken faith seriously. I was a man of reason, of logic, of proof. But at that moment, so broken, so desperate, I was willing to consider anything. "Come with me to church service. Culto," she said. "Just once. If it doesn't help, I'll never ask again." But please, try. It took 3 more weeks of persistent invitations until I finally accepted. It was a Sunday morning, and I had finally managed to get out of bed, shower, and dress. Clara was radiant when I came downstairs and said I would go with her. The church was small, simple, in a nearby neighborhood. The pastor, Padre, was young, charismatic, and when he began to speak, something strange happened. Every word seemed directed specifically at me. He talked about getting lost, about seeking meaning in the wrong things, about how God patiently waits for us to return to Him. "Many of you are here today broken," he said, his voice echoing in the silent church. "You are exhausted from trying to control everything, from seeking happiness where it cannot be found, from building your lives on sand. And God is saying today, 'Son, daughter, come rest in me. Let me carry this burden.'" Tears began to stream down my face, and I didn't even try to hold them back. There, on that hard church bench, with Clara sitting silently and respectfully beside me, something broke inside me. All the defenses, all the pride, all the pretense of having control. Everything collapsed, and what was left was a desperate man silently crying out for help. When the service, Missa, ended, I sat for a long time, unable to move. Clara waited patiently. Finally, I looked at her, my eyes still wet. "Thank you," was all I could manage to say. "Want to come back next week?" she asked gently. "Yes." And I went back. And I went back again. And again. Clara and I started going to church service 3 times a week. We started studying the Bible together at home, her teaching me things she had learned, me asking questions, debating, questioning, but always seeking. Slowly, very slowly, the darkness began to recede. There were still difficult days, but now there were also days of light. There was hope where before there was only despair. There was purpose where before there was emptiness. Clara gave me a gift greater than she could ever imagine. She showed me a path I didn't even know existed, opened my spiritual eyes when I was blind, extended her hand to me when I was drowning, and I will be eternally grateful to her for that. One day, a few weeks after my conversion, we were studying the Bible in the living room after dinner. Scott was sleeping and the house was quiet. Clara was reading a passage about forgiveness when she stopped and looked at me with unusual hesitation. "Mr. Ethan, can I say something that might not be my business?" "Of course, Clara. Go ahead." She took a deep breath, clearly uncomfortable. "It's about Mrs. Jennifer, your ex-wife." My body stiffened instinctively upon hearing the name. "What about her?" I sometimes overhear her conversations when she comes to drop off Scott. Not on purpose, but the walls aren't that thick." She was red now, embarrassed. "And there's a man. She talks to him. Differently. Intimately. Warmly." The silence that followed was heavy. Thousands of thoughts ran through my head. Anger, betrayal, but also a strange sense of clarity. "How long have you noticed this?" "A few months. I'm sorry, I didn't know if I should tell you. I didn't want to interfere. You're not just anything, Clara," I interrupted. "You're my friend, and I appreciate you telling me." That night, lying in bed, I processed the information. Everything made sense now. The sudden coldness, the abrupt divorce request, the rush to end everything. Jennifer already had someone else, probably already did when we were still married. But strangely, I didn't feel the pain I expected to feel. I felt sadness for the definitive death of something I had valued, but I didn't feel the dagger of betrayal I should have felt. And I realized why. I had already made peace with the end of my marriage. I had already forgiven Jennifer, even without knowing there was anything to forgive. Faith had taught me that. I sought out Clara the next morning. She was making coffee, still with that worried look of someone who fears having said too much. "Clara, about last night. Thank you for telling me. And I just want you to know, I'm at peace with it. I'm not angry, I'm not hurt. What Jennifer does or doesn't do is no longer my concern. My focus now is on being the best father possible to Scott and living in a way that honors God." The smile of relief she gave me lit up the entire kitchen. "You are a very good man, Mr. Ethan." "I'm trying to be," I replied honestly. Those were months of deep transformation. My relationship with Scott improved. I was more present, more patient, more loving. My work gained new meaning. I now saw it as a way to serve, to help people, not just to earn money. And my friendship with Clara deepened in ways I never imagined possible. We talked for hours about everything. She told me about her childhood in the South, about the alcoholic father who beat her and Mrs. Mary, about the escape to New York City, São Paulo, about the brutal bullying she suffered in school because of her accent. She spoke of these things with a pain that was still palpable, but also with an acceptance that came from faith. "Some days it still hurts," she admitted one night. "But I've learned that God doesn't waste pain. He uses everything, even the bad things, to mold us." I saw that she carried deep wounds, traumas that affected how she saw herself. She rarely truly smiled, and when she did, she always covered her mouth with her hand. One day, I asked her why. "My teeth are crooked, Mr. Ethan, and I'm missing one. It's ugly." "You are not ugly, Clara. But if it bothers you that much, we can fix it." That's how I started paying for dental treatment for her. It wasn't cheap, but seeing the gradual transformation, seeing how she started to smile more openly, was worth every penny. I also paid for a therapist to help her process her childhood trauma. She deserved to be happy, deserved to be free from the past that haunted her. And as for me, I continued my faith journey, learning more, growing more, being transformed more each day. Depression still visited sometimes, but it no longer dominated me. I had tools now. I had faith. I had purpose. I had found my way back to the light, and Clara had been the guide God had placed in my life to show me the way. The months went by, and something was changing between Clara and me, something subtle that I pretended not to notice. But that was there, pulsating, alive, impossible to ignore. Our conversations became longer, deeper. We were no longer just boss and maid, not even just friends. We were two souls who had found something rare, something precious in each other. Clara was 21 years old now, and I was 34. An age difference that should have created a natural barrier, but somehow didn't. When we talked about the Bible, about God, about life, there was no age. There were just two people connected by something greater than both. I started to notice small things, the way she smiled when I came home, how her eyes lit up, how she always left my favorite meal ready on the toughest nights, how she knew exactly when I needed silence and when I needed conversation. It was a care that went beyond the professional, beyond the friendly. It was something more. One day I asked her when her birthday was. "August 23rd, she replied, surprised by the question. I made a mental note, determined to do something special. She deserved it. After everything she had been through, all the pain she had carried, she deserved to feel special, valued, seen. When the day came, Clara was turning 21. I had carefully planned everything. The night before, I asked her to wear her best clothes the next day, something dressy. She looked at me confused, but agreed. On the morning of her birthday, I knocked on the cottage door at 9 o'clock. Clara opened it wearing a simple floral dress, her hair pulled back in a ponytail, a question mark on her face. "Mr. Ethan, did something happen?" "Today is your princess day," I announced with a smile. "Let's go." I took her first to a hair salon a client had recommended. While the stylists worked, doing a deep conditioning, trimming the ends, applying a straightening treatment that left her hair smooth and shiny as silk, I watched the transformation on her face. She was radiant, but also nervous, not knowing how to react to so much attention. "Mr. Ethan, this is too much. I don't deserve—" "You deserve this, and so much more, Clara." From the hair salon, we went straight to a professional makeup artist. I saw Clara's eyes widen as the makeup artist began her work, enhancing her features, highlighting those deep brown eyes, applying a soft lipstick that made her lips perfect. When she finished, Clara barely recognized herself in the mirror. "Is this me?" she whispered, gently touching her face as if afraid to ruin it. "This has always been you," I replied. "It was just hidden." The photo session was at the studio of a photographer a friend had recommended. The place was incredible, with various sets, professional lights, and a photographer who knew exactly how to make people comfortable. Clara was shy at first, but little by little she started to relax. The photographer was brilliant, capturing genuine moments, true smiles that lighten her eyes. "Smile for me, Clara. That's it. Perfect. You're beautiful, you know," the photographer said, and I saw her confidence growing with every click. At the end of the session, after dozens of photos, Clara approached me. There was something different in her eyes, a new courage. "Mr. Ethan, can we take a picture together?" "Of course." The photographer positioned us, adjusted the lighting. Clara was next to me, and I naturally put my arm around her shoulders. She leaned lightly against me, and I smelled the soft perfume she wore, that floral scent that had become so familiar. The flash fired, capturing that moment. "You two look great," the photographer exclaimed. "You look very happy together." On the way back home, Clara was silent, but it was a different silence. There was a small but constant smile on her lips. "Thank you," she finally said. "It was the best birthday of my life." "You deserve to be happy, Clara. Always." A week later, the photos were ready. They were beautiful. Clara was unrecognizable in them, not because she looked different, but because she finally looked like herself, without the layers of insecurity and pain she normally carried. She took all the photos with reverent care, as if they were precious treasures. A few days later, I noticed she had put the photo of the two of us in her room. I saw it when I passed by the cottage to check a plumbing issue. The photo was in a simple frame on her nightstand. And when I borrowed her cell phone to make a call because mine had died, I saw that the same photo was her lock screen. My heart raced when I realized this. There was a meaning there that I could no longer ignore. But what should I do with it? Clara was young, vulnerable, financially dependent on me. I had a position of power over her. It would be wrong. It would be taking advantage. It would be... But my heart whispered other things. It whispered that maybe, just maybe, this was something real. I tried to ignore these thoughts. I plunged into work, spent more time with Scott, intensified my Bible studies. But Clara was always there, a constant presence that I could no longer categorize simply as an employee or a friend. Once, I had to travel to Miami, Rio de Janeiro, for a law conference. I would be away for 4 days, and for the first time since we moved into that house, I would be away. I informed Clara a week in advance. 4 days? She asked, and there was something in her voice, a disappointment she tried to hide but couldn't. "It's important for work. Will you be okay here alone?" "Of course, Mr. Ethan. Don't worry about me." On the first day of the trip, after a full day of forced lectures and networking, I returned to the hotel room exhausted. My cell phone beeped. It was a message from Clara. "How was your day? Are you eating well? Everything's quiet here." "Missing you." I smiled when I read it. I replied, telling her about the day, about the lectures, about the incredible hotel view of South Beach, Copacabana Beach. She replied immediately, asking questions, laughing at my observations about the boring speakers. On the second day, the same thing, and on the third. We talked every night, long messages about everything and nothing. I realized that those were the best moments of my day, when I could talk to her, when I felt that connection even miles away. On the fourth day, when I finally returned home, it was evening. I parked the car, and before I even reached the door, she was already there, opening it. And then, in a move that completely caught me by surprise, Clara hugged me. It wasn't a polite, formal hug. It was a tight, desperate hug, as if she had held her breath for 4 days and could finally breathe again. "I missed you so much," she whispered against my chest, and I felt her arms tighten more. I returned the hug, allowing myself for a moment to simply feel that connection, that warmth, that feeling of being home in a way that had nothing to do with the address. "I missed you too," I admitted, and it was true. When we walked in, the unmistakable smell of spaghetti carbonara, my favorite dish, filled the house. The table was set, 2 glasses of wine beside the plates, candles lit, creating an intimate atmosphere. "I prepared your favorite dish to celebrate your return," she said, and there was a blush on her cheeks that had nothing to do with the heat of the kitchen. We had dinner talking, laughing, her wanting to know every detail of the trip. There was a joy in her that was contagious. When we finished and I went to my room, something made me stop. There was a different, familiar scent. Clara's perfume. I got closer to the bed, picked up the pillow and brought it to my nose. Yes, it was her unmistakable perfume. She had slept in my bed while I was away. My heart started beating faster. She had missed me so much that she needed to sleep where I slept, surrounded by my scent, as if that could lessen the distance between us. I didn't say anything about it. I kept that information as a precious secret, something that told me more than 1,000 words could say about how Clara felt about me. The following weeks were marked by increasing tension, an undercurrent of unspoken emotions, of glances that lasted a second longer than they should, of accidental touches that seemed to leave invisible marks on the skin. I was falling in love with Clara, and with everything I had learned about seeing signs, about reading people, I knew she was also falling in love with me. But what should I do with this? How could a successful 34-year-old lawyer have a relationship with the 20-year-old daughter of the maid who raised him? What would people say? What would my colleagues think? What would Jennifer say? What would this do to my reputation? These thoughts tormented me. Until one day, studying the Bible alone, I came across a passage in Corinthians. Love is patient. Love is kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. It does not dishonor others. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. I read and reread that passage. It does not boast. It is not proud. My fear of others' judgment was vanity. It was pride. It was putting people's opinions above what my heart, above what God might be showing me. But still, I was afraid. Afraid of being wrong. Afraid of hurting her. Afraid of just being an older man taking advantage of a vulnerable girl. I needed guidance. I scheduled a conversation with the church pastor. Pastor Michael, Padre Miguel, was a man in his 50s, wise, compassionate, someone I had learned to trust. I told him everything. About Clara, about the feelings I was developing, about my fears and doubts. He listened in silence, nodding occasionally, without judgment in his eyes. "Ethan," he said when I finished, "you're asking the right question, but perhaps to the wrong person. I can give you advice, I can guide you based on God's word, but this answer needs to come from above. You need to seek God in fasting and prayer. You need to step away from the noise of the world and listen to what He has to say about this." Fasting? A seeking fast. Go to a quiet place, step away from everything, and spend some time in prayer and reflection. God answers when we seek Him sincerely. That's how, the following Friday, I took my car and drove to a simple retreat hotel, Hotel Fazenda, 2 hours from New York City, São Paulo. It was a simple, quiet place, surrounded by nature, perfect for what I needed. I informed Clara I would be gone for the weekend. She seemed disappointed but understood. "Will you be okay?" I asked. "I will. Take care, Mr. Ethan." I arrived at the hotel on Friday night. The room was basic but comfortable. I had a light dinner and went to sleep early, mentally preparing for what was to come. I woke up on Saturday at 6 in the morning, the sun barely starting to rise. I had breakfast, and at 7 o'clock I started my fast. 36 hours only with water until Sunday at 7 in the evening. I spent the day in prayer. I walked through the hotel gardens, the Bible in my hand, reading, reflecting, asking for guidance. "Lord," I prayed, "show me the way. I am confused, afraid. Is this your will? Is Clara the person you chose for me? Or am I being selfish, taking advantage of a situation of power? Please, show me the truth." The hours dragged on. Hunger started to gnaw late in the afternoon, but I ignored it. This wasn't about the physical. It was about the spiritual. I continued praying, reading, seeking. Night fell. I prayed more. And then, exhausted, around 11 o'clock at night, I lay down, and I slept. The dream came in the early hours of the morning. I was in a brightly lit, cozy room, and there, smiling at me with that affectionate smile I hadn't seen for so many years, was Mrs. Mary. She was exactly as I remembered her face gentle, her eyes kind, that maternal way that made me feel safe when I was a child. "Ethan, dear," Carlinho, she said, using the nickname only she used with me. "My boy has grown so much." "Mrs. Mary?" My voice came out shaky even in the dream. "I missed you so much." She approached and held my hands. "I came to thank you, Ethan, dear. You took care of my girl when I couldn't be there anymore. You protected her, gave her a home, opened your heart. She's in good hands with you. I don't know if—" "Take good care of her for the rest of your life," Mrs. Mary interrupted, and there was an intensity in her eyes that was almost physical. "She is a gift from God to you, just as you are to her. Don't let fear or pride steal the happiness God prepared for you both." And then she hugged me, a tight, warm hug that made me feel like that 7-year-old boy who had cried in her arms when his classmates had been cruel at school. "Thank you, my son. Thank you for everything." I woke up suddenly, completely alert. My heart was pounding. I looked at the clock on the nightstand. 3 in the morning. The dream had been so real, so vivid, that I could still feel Mrs. Mary's hug, could still hear her voice in my ears. I sat up in bed, trembling, not from cold, but from something much bigger. Could it have been just a dream? Or was God answering my prayers in a way I never imagined? I got up, turned on the light, picked up the Bible, and I started praying again. Lord, if this dream was you speaking to me, I need more certainty. Please confirm. Show me if I should follow my heart. Give me a clear, unequivocal sign. I stayed on my knees for half an hour, praying with an intensity I had never experienced before. My knees hurt against the hard floor, but I didn't move. I was totally focused, totally open, waiting. And then it happened. With my eyes closed, in deep concentration, I saw something. It wasn't a vision in the physical sense, but it was as real as anything I had ever seen. It was an image in my mind, but with a clarity, a vividness that didn't come from me. I was smiling, radiant with happiness. Next to me was Clara, also smiling, her eyes shining with joy. And in my arms, a baby, a beautiful girl with big, curious eyes. Clara and I were wearing wedding rings, unmistakable symbols of marriage. We were a family, and then a voice, clear and loving, that seemed to come from inside and outside at the same time. This is your wife. This is your daughter. The vision lasted only a few seconds, but it was enough. Tears started streaming down my face, tears of gratitude, of relief, of pure joy. God had answered, not vaguely or ambiguously, but clearly, directly. Clara was the person he had chosen for me. I fell face down on the floor, sobbing, thanking with every fiber of my being. Thank you, Lord. Thank you for showing me. Thank you for answering. I trust you, Lord. I will follow the path you are showing me. It was then that I heard my cell phone beep with a message. 3:15 in the morning. Who would be awake at this hour? I picked up the phone with trembling hands. It was Clara. Can't sleep. Missing you. Hope you're okay. My heart squeezed. She was also awake in the middle of the night, thinking of me, missing me. I replied immediately, missing you too. I'm coming back tonight. See you soon. I spent the rest of the morning awake, praying, thanking, still processing everything that had happened. When the sun began to rise, I felt a peace I had never felt before. An absolute certainty that I was on the right path. During Sunday, I continued my fast as I had promised. But now, my prayers were different. They were no longer of supplication, but of gratitude. And I also started praying about my work. For months, I'd been feeling uncomfortable with some practices at the office where I was a partner. My partner, Mr. Henry, Dr. Henrique, didn't have the same scruples as I did. He took dubious cases, used legal loopholes in a way I considered unethical, prioritizing profit over justice. Since my conversion, this bothered me more and more. Lord, I prayed, show me what to do with my job. I know I can't stay in a place that goes against my values, against what you teach, but I'm afraid. Afraid to start over, afraid of not being able to support myself and Clara. And once again, God answered. Not with a vision this time, but with a certainty that settled in my heart. I heard, not with my physical ears, but with something deeper. Do something that pleases my eyes. Your time in that place is ending. Trust me. When it was 7 o'clock on Sunday night, I ended my fast. My body was screaming for food, but my spirit was satisfied in a way that physical food could never satisfy. I called Clara. Mr. Ethan, her voice was full of joy. Are you coming back? I am. I should arrive in about 2 hours. I'll prepare dinner. Carbonara with grated cheese crust sounds good? I smiled. My favorite dish again. Perfect. Thank you, Clara. The drive back was like I was floating, every mile bringing me closer to her, closer to the moment when I would finally open my heart. I was nervous, but it was a good nervousness, full of expectation. When I arrived, Clara was at the door, waiting. She was wearing a simple dress, her hair down, that smile that lit up everything around her. We hugged, and this time it was different. I held her a little tighter, a little longer. I missed you, I said, and I saw the surprise in her eyes. I had never said that before. Me too, she whispered. Dinner was perfect. We sat, ate, talked. Clara asked about the hotel, about how the weekend had been. I told her superficially, saying I needed some time alone to think, to pray. And then she told me something that made my heart pound. Mr. Ethan, I had a strange dream on Saturday morning. I dreamed about my mother. I stopped eating, all my attention on her now. Tell me. It was so real. She was smiling, happy. She said I'm going to be very happy, that in the right time things will happen, that God has a plan for my life, and it's always in His time. Just trust. Clara wiped away a tear that was falling. I hugged her so tight, and when I woke up, I was crying, with real tears in my eyes. It was around 3 in the morning. That's when I sent that message. 3 in the morning. Exactly when I had had my dream with Mrs. Mary. Exactly when God had given me the vision. It couldn't be a coincidence. It was an additional confirmation, a sign for both of us at the same time. What a beautiful dream, I managed to say, my voice choked with emotion. We finished dinner in a comfortable silence, but loaded with something unsaid. I helped clear the table, and then, my heart beating like a drum, I said, "Clara, can we sit on the couch? I need to talk to you about something important." I saw apprehension cross her eyes, but she agreed. We sat on the living room couch, me facing her. I took her hands, and they were cold, trembling slightly. "Are you scared?" I asked gently. "A little. I don't know what it's about." I took a deep breath. It was now. "Clara, the main reason I went to that hotel this weekend was to go on a fast of seeking, of prayer, because I needed answers from God about something very important." She looked at me with those immense eyes, waiting. I needed to know if God approved of me falling in love with a simple girl, but pure of heart. A girl who makes me think about her all day, even when I'm away. A girl who opened my spiritual eyes when I was blind, who extended her hand to me when I was drowning. A girl who has become the most important person in my life. Her hands squeezed mine, tears starting to form in her eyes. "Clara, I also dreamed about your mother on Saturday morning. At 3 in the morning, exactly when you had your dream. Mrs. Mary thanked me for taking care of you and told me to take good care of you for the rest of my life." A tear rolled down her face. "And after that, God gave me a vision. I saw the two of us together, happy with wedding rings on our hands and a baby in my arms, a girl, and a voice said, 'This is your wife. This is your daughter.'" Clara was openly crying now, her hands squeezing mine hard. "Clara, I've fallen in love with you. I don't know exactly when it started, but I know it's real. I know you're much younger. I know people will judge. I know our story is unusual. But God showed me that you are the person He chose for me, and I want to make you happy. I want to have a marriage of friendship, of trust, of a true love that I never had. I want to build a life with you, if you'll have me." For a long moment she didn't say anything, just cried. Then, with a trembling but firm voice, she spoke. "I fell in love with you so long ago, Mr. Ethan. I tried to hide it. I tried to pretend it was just gratitude, just friendship. But every time you left, I felt like a part of me went with you. Every time you came back, I felt whole again. I sleep in your bed when you travel because it's the only way to feel you're close. I put our photo in my room because I want to wake up seeing your face every day." She leaned closer, our faces inches apart. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, I will. I want all of that with you." And then, finally, we allowed what we had been holding back for so long to happen. We kissed. It was a kiss that contained all the waiting, all the uncertainty, all the fear we had carried. But it also contained promise, hope, love. Her lips were soft, her accelerated breath mixed with mine. My hands went to her face, her arms around my neck. The kiss deepened, intensified. I felt her body reacting, her breathing getting shallower, her body pressing against mine. There was desire there, a will dormant for so long that now surfaced forcefully. But then, gathering all the willpower I had, I gently pulled away. "Clara, wait." She looked at me, confused, her face flushed, her lips swollen from the kiss. "What's wrong? Did I do something wrong?" No, you're perfect." I held her face with both hands. "But I want to do this right. I want to honor you, honor God. I don't want our first time to be something rushed, hidden. I want it to be after marriage, when you are truly my wife, when we are united before God and men." I saw understanding enter her eyes, followed by something that looked like admiration. "Are you sure? Because I want you now. I want you too, more than you can imagine. But I'm sure. A few weeks of waiting is nothing compared to a lifetime together." She nodded, settling against my chest. We stayed like that for a long time, embracing on the couch, processing everything that had happened, everything that had changed. "How long do we have to wait?" she asked finally, a hint of humor in her voice. I smiled. 45 days. "We'll talk to Pastor Michael tomorrow and set the date. Enough time to organize everything, but not so long that I lose my sanity." She laughed, that free laugh I loved to hear. 45 days, I can wait. And so, that night, everything changed. We were no longer just two people sharing a house. We were engaged, committed to each other, with a future together ahead of us. And despite all the challenges we knew would come, despite the judgments and the malicious tongues, we were at peace. Because God had blessed our union, and that was all that mattered. The following 45 days were the longest, and at the same time the fastest of my life. Long because every day seemed like an eternity when all I wanted was to be able to call Clara my wife. Fast because there was so much to do, so much to prepare, and time flew between the preparations. On the morning after that transformative night, I woke up with a smile on my face, something that hadn't happened in years. Everything seemed different, more alive, more colorful. The sun coming through the window was brighter, the birdsong was more melodious. Even the coffee Clara prepared had a special flavor. She was radiant, a sparkle in her eyes she couldn't hide. When we sat down for coffee, she held my hand across the table. "It still feels like a dream," she said softly. "I'm afraid I'll wake up and discover none of this is real." "It's real," I assured her, squeezing her hand. "More real than anything I've ever lived." After coffee, we went together to talk to Pastor Michael. He welcomed us into his office with that warm smile that characterized him. When we told him about our decision to get married, about the dreams, about God's confirmation through the fast, he was silent for a moment, clearly moved. "You know it won't be easy," he finally said. "People will talk, they will judge. The age difference, the circumstances of how you met, all of this will be fuel for malicious tongues." "We know," I replied, "but we are sure. God showed us the way, and that's what matters." Pastor Michael smiled. "If God approved, who am I to question? We'll set the date for 45 days from now then. You'll need to take the premarital counseling, Curso de Nuevos, prepare the documentation, and of course, organize the ceremony." We left the church holding hands, our hearts light despite the challenges we knew were coming. And the challenges didn't take long to appear. When I told some close friends about my engagement, the reactions were mixed. Some were genuinely happy for me. Others, however, couldn't hide their disapproval. "Ethan, are you sure about this?" asked Ricardo, a college friend. "She's too young, man, and you barely know each other for real." Think about it. You're recovering from a difficult divorce. Maybe it's just loneliness. It's not loneliness, Richard. It's love. And we know each other better than you think. But she's the maid's daughter, Ethan. What will clients think? What will this do to your reputation? I felt anger rising, but I took a deep breath, remembering the Bible's words about patience. My reputation is no longer more important than my happiness, Richard. And if people judge me for loving someone with a pure heart, then maybe those aren't the people I want around me. The conversation with my partner, Mr. Henry, was even worse. When I mentioned I was thinking of ending our partnership, he was furious. "Because of the girl?" He spat the words out with disdain. "Ethan, have you lost your mind? You threw away a stable marriage, and now you want to throw away a successful law firm for what? For a romantic delusion?" "It's not because of Clara," I replied calmly, although inside I was boiling. "It's because I can no longer agree with the way you handle some cases. It doesn't align with my values." "Values," he laughed with contempt. "Since you started with this church thing, you've become boring, Ethan. Moralistic. Law isn't about values. It's about winning cases. For you, maybe. Not for me anymore." I left the office that day knowing I had made the right decision, even if it meant starting from scratch. I had enough savings for a few months, and I trusted that God would provide the rest. The reaction of Scott, my 7-year-old son, was surprisingly positive. When I told him I was going to marry Clara, his eyes lit up. "Seriously, Dad? Is Clara going to be my real mom now?" "Well, she's going to be my wife. You still have your mom, Scott. But yes, Clara is going to officially be part of our family." "Cool. I like her a lot. She's nice to me, not like that Patricia you brought over once." I smiled, hugging my son. If there was anyone whose approval truly mattered, it was him. Jennifer, however, was a different story. When I casually mentioned I was getting married, she was in shock. "To who? The maid? Ethan, are you kidding me? Clara isn't the maid, Jennifer. She has a name. And yes, I'm going to marry her. Are you doing this to provoke me? To humiliate me? Not everything is about you, Jennifer. I'm doing it because I love her." She laughed, but it was a bitter, humorless laugh. "Love? Please, Ethan. You're having a midlife crisis and deluding yourself with a young girl who is clearly interested in your money. Think what you want." I no longer need your approval for anything. I hung up the phone feeling a mixture of anger and sadness, but also liberation. Jennifer no longer had power over me, over my decisions, over my happiness. The weeks passed in a whirlwind. Clara and I decided to have a simple ceremony, only with close people. We didn't want ostentation, we just wanted to celebrate our love before God and the people who truly mattered. I helped Clara choose her wedding dress. We went to several stores, and she finally found the perfect dress. Simple but elegant, white as snow, which made her look even more angelic than she already was. "You're beautiful," I said when she came out of the fitting room, and tears filled my eyes. "You're going to be the most beautiful bride there ever was." She blushed, that adorable blush that always appeared when I complimented her. "Do you really think so?" "I'm sure." The 45 days were also a test of self-control. Living in the same house, seeing Clara every day, the kisses we exchanged, the physical proximity, everything conspired to tempt us to break our promise to wait. There were difficult moments when we almost gave in. One night, we were on the couch watching a movie. Clara nestled against me. The movie was forgotten when we started kissing, a kiss that quickly intensified. My hands explored her back, her hair, she sighing against my lips. I felt her body reacting, pressing against mine. "Clara," I managed to say between kisses, my voice hoarse. "We have to stop." "I don't want to stop," she whispered, her lips on my neck now making me tremble. "It's only 2 weeks away, Ethan. I can't wait anymore." I used all my willpower to gently pull away, holding her face between my hands. We were both breathing heavily, the desire palpable in the air between us. "I can't wait anymore either. But we've come so far. We've been so careful. We're not going to ruin it now." 2 weeks, my love. Just 2 more weeks and you'll be my wife, and we'll have the rest of our lives. She nodded, though clearly frustrated, and moved to the other side of the couch, creating physical distance between us. "You're right. I'm sorry, You don't have to apologize. I want you just as much as you want me. But this makes it even more special, don't you think? When we're finally together this way, it will be perfect, without guilt, without remorse." She smiled, a tear rolling down her face. "You're too good a man for me, Ethan." "No, I'm just a man trying to honor the woman he loves and the God who brought us together." Finally, after 45 days that felt like an eternity, the wedding day arrived. It was a sunny Saturday in October. The sky was blue without a cloud, as if God himself was blessing our day. The hall we rented was small but cozy, decorated with white and lilac flowers, the colors Clara had chosen. There were only about 30 people, but they were the right people, the ones who truly supported us. I was nervous, adjusting my tie for the 10th time, when Pastor Michael approached. "Ready, Ethan?" "More than ever." And then the music started. The wedding march filled the hall and everyone stood up. And there she was. Clara walked down the aisle. There was no father to give her away, so she came alone. But she was not alone. I could see the presence of Mrs. Mary in that moment. I could feel her blessing on us. And Clara was absolutely stunning. The white dress fell perfectly on her body, her hair loose in soft curls, a wreath of white flowers on her head, the bouquet trembling slightly in her hands. But what got me was her face. She was radiant, smiling through the tears that streamed freely, her eyes fixed on mine, and in those eyes I saw pure, uncontaminated, true love. When she reached the altar, I took her hand, and it was trembling. "Are you nervous?" I whispered. "I'm happy," she whispered back. "Happier than I ever thought possible." The ceremony was beautiful. Pastor Michael spoke about true love, about how God unites people in mysterious ways, about how real love transcends social barriers, age, circumstances. He spoke about how our story was proof that God writes stories that the world cannot understand. When it was time for the vows, I held Clara's hands, looking deep into her eyes. "Clara, you came into my life when I was lost, broken, hopeless. You showed me God, showed me light where I only saw darkness. You are my gift from heaven, my answered prayer that I didn't even know I needed to make. I promise to love you, honor you, take care of you every day of my life. I promise to be the man you deserve, the husband God wants me to be. I promise to make you happy, today and always." She was crying openly now, but smiling through the tears. "Ethan, you saved me when I had no one. You gave me a home when I was alone. You gave me love when I thought I was incapable of being loved. You showed me that I am worthy, that I am valuable, that I deserve to be happy. I promise to be your faithful wife, your companion, your best friend. I promise to support you, love you, walk by your side at all times. You are my miracle, and I will spend the rest of my life thanking God for you." There wasn't a dry eye in the room when Pastor Michael finally said, "By the power vested in me, I now pronounce you husband and wife. Ethan, you may kiss your bride." And I kissed her. I kissed Clara with all the love I had inside me, and she reciprocated with equal intensity. Applause erupted around us, but all I could focus on was her, the woman who was now my wife, my lifelong companion. The reception was simple but joyful. We ate, we danced, we laughed. Scott was over the moon, running back and forth, telling everyone that he now had a new mother. Some true friends were there, celebrating with us. And above all, there was joy, pure and genuine. When we cut the cake, Clara took a piece and brought it to my mouth, but at the last minute she smashed a little on my nose, laughing that free laugh I loved. I reciprocated, putting frosting on her nose, and we kissed amidst the laughter of the people. At the end of the night, when everyone had left, Clara and I went back home. But now, it wasn't just a house, it was our home. And Clara wasn't going to sleep in the cottage, she was going to sleep with me in the master bedroom, as my wife. "Finally," she whispered as we entered the room. I thought this moment would never come. I took her face in my hands, looking deep into her eyes. Was it worth the wait? Worth every second. Our first night together was everything I imagined it would be, and more. It was tenderness and passion. It was discovery and surrender. It was two bodies becoming one, two souls completely uniting. There was no rush, no guilt. There was nothing but pure love, blessed by God, sanctified by marriage. Afterward, lying embraced, Clara with her head on my chest, I stroked her hair, still processing that this incredible woman was my wife. "You know that thing you always knew?" she said sleepily. "About me sleeping in your bed when you traveled?" "I do. I smelled your perfume on the pillow." She laughed softly. "I imagined you were there with me. I hugged the pillow pretending it was you. It sounds silly now." "It's not silly. It's the sweetest thing I've ever heard." She snuggled closer to me. "I don't have to pretend anymore. Never again." A week later, we left for our honeymoon. First destination, Dubai. Clara had never left the US, Brazil, had never flown on a plane, and seeing her excitement was like seeing a child at Christmas. Dubai was fascinating, a place where the ancient and the modern met in impossible ways. The impressive skyscrapers contrasting with the traditional markets. The ostentatious luxury alongside ancient mosques. Clara was amazed by everything. We went up the Burj Khalifa, the tallest building in the world, and looked at the city sprawling beneath us. "It's so small down there," she said, marveling. "It makes us realize how small we are before God's creation." We walked through the desert, rode camels, saw the sunset staining the dunes golden. At night, under an impossible starry sky, we had dinner at a Bedouin camp, delicious Arabian food, traditional music playing in the background. "Thank you," Clara said that night, holding my hand, "for giving me all this, for showing me the world. It's just the beginning, my love." We'll see much more together. From Dubai, we flew to Israel, and it was there, in the Holy Land, that our honeymoon also became a spiritual pilgrimage. Jerusalem was different from anything we had seen. There was an energy in the city, a sense of sacredness that was almost palpable. We walked the Via Dolorosa, the path Jesus took carrying the cross. We visited the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, where he was crucified and resurrected. Clara cried at every holy site we visited, touching the ancient stones with reverence, praying fervently. "He walked here," she whispered. "Jesus really walked through these places." We visited the Garden of Gethsemane, where Jesus prayed before being arrested. The ancient olive trees, silent witnesses to one of the most important moments in history. We went to Bethlehem, saw the place where Christ was born. With each place, our faith deepened, became more real, more tangible. But the most special moment was when we went to the Jordan River, where John the Baptist baptized Jesus. There was a specific place prepared for baptisms, and we decided to be baptized again there, renewing our faith in the same sacred waters. The local pastor baptized us, immersing us in the cold water of the river. When I came out of the water, I felt as if I had left behind all the weight of the past, all the pain, all the doubt. It was a new beginning, not just as a couple, but as servants of God. Clara came out of the water radiant, her soaked clothes clinging to her body, her wet hair shining in the sun. But her eyes shone with something much deeper than physical light. It was the light of renewed faith, of the absolute certainty of being on the right path. We hugged there, wet and happy, and prayed together, thanking God for everything He had done in our lives, for uniting us, for showing us His love in such profound ways. We spent 2 weeks in Israel, visiting ancient synagogues, walking where Jesus walked, absorbing the history, the faith, the sacredness of every stone, every corner. We returned to the U.S. transformed, our faith not only renewed, but strengthened in ways we didn't know were possible. Back home, we started our married life for real. Clara definitively moved into the master bedroom, and we finally turned the cottage into a guest space for when Scott came to spend the nights with us. "I don't have to sleep hugging your pillow anymore," she said, laughing as we put her things away in the closet. "Now I can sleep hugging you for real." "Much better this way," I agreed, pulling her in for a kiss. But it wasn't all roses. The malicious tongues that Pastor Michael had foreseen did not take long to appear. Malicious comments began to circulate. They were already together for years, I'm sure. He was cheating on his wife with the maid. That's why she filed for divorce. She's with him for the money, obviously. An opportunist. He's having a midlife crisis, and he's going to regret it. Poor Jennifer, betrayed by her husband with the maid she herself sheltered. These comments reached me, brought by well-meaning acquaintances or ill-intentioned enemies. At first, they bothered me. I got angry. I wanted to confront everyone, defend our honor. But Clara, with that wisdom that went beyond her years, calmed me down. "Let them talk, Ethan. We know the truth. God knows the truth. Our conscience is clear. We did everything right. We waited. We honored our faith. What people say doesn't change any of that." And she was right. Our conscience was clear. We had nothing to hide, nothing to be ashamed of. We had followed the path God had shown, and that was all that mattered. The decision to end the partnership with Mr. Henry was finalized a month after our return. It was a draining process, dividing clients, assets, financial settlements. But finally, I was free. I rented a small, modest office, quite different from the luxurious office I had before. I put a simple sign on the door, "Ethan Mendez, Law." And I hired my first and only employee, my wife. Clara became my receptionist, secretary, assistant. She was finishing her business administration degree and applied everything she learned in the office. She organized our files, created efficient systems, served clients with a genuine friendliness that people loved. At first, it was difficult. The first months were lean, few clients, many bills. There were nights when I stayed awake, worried, wondering if I had made the right choice. But Clara never doubted. "God brought us this far," she would say. "He won't abandon us now. Trust Him." And slowly, very slowly, things started to get better. One client referred another. A victory in an important case brought credibility. The reputation for honesty, ethical work, for truly caring about people instead of just profit, began to spread. 6 months after opening the office, we were stable. A year later, we were prospering. We weren't rich. We didn't have the revenue I had at the previous firm, but we had something much more valuable: peace of mind. And then, almost exactly a year after our wedding, Clara gave me the most wonderful news. It was a Saturday morning. We were having coffee together when she placed something on the table in front of me. A pregnancy test. Positive. "I'm pregnant," she said, tears of joy rolling down her face. "We're going to have a baby." I was paralyzed for a moment, processing the information. And then everything came back. The vision God had given me during the fast. Me holding a baby, Clara by my side, both wearing wedding rings. A voice saying, "This is your wife. This is your daughter." "It's a girl," I said with absolute certainty. "It's going to be a girl." "How do you know?" Clara asked, surprised. "God showed me. In the vision I had at the hotel. It was a girl, our daughter." Clara started crying harder, tears of pure joy now. We hugged there in the kitchen, celebrating the miracle of life growing inside her, the fulfillment of God's promise. The 9 months of pregnancy were wonderful. Seeing Clara pregnant, seeing her body changing, feeling our daughter kicking inside her was one of the most incredible experiences of my life. Scott was thrilled with the idea of having a little sister, already planning everything he would teach her. Even Jennifer, surprisingly, softened. When she heard about the pregnancy, she called to congratulate, and for the first time since the divorce, there was no bitterness in her voice. "I'm happy for you, Ethan. Really. Thank you, Jennifer. That means a lot." And then, on a beautiful September day, after an 8-hour labor, our daughter was born. Perfect, healthy, beautiful, with her mother's eyes and, according to the nurses, my nose. "She's perfect," Clara whispered, holding our daughter for the first time, tears of exhaustion and joy mixed on her face. "Just like you," I replied, kissing her sweaty forehead. We decided to name her Maria, in honor of Mrs. Mary, the woman who had been a mother to both of us in different ways, whose love and dedication had shaped us, whose prayers from heaven had certainly protected us. Seeing Clara as a mother was discovering yet another layer of the incredible woman I had married. She was patient, loving, dedicated. I saw in her echoes of her own mother, that same tenderness, that same unwavering care. Scott adored his little sister, always wanting to hold her, help change diapers, make faces to make her laugh. Our family was complete. The following years were years of growth in all areas. The office prospered even more. Clara graduated with her administration degree and officially became my partner at the firm. Mary grew up healthy and happy, a joyful girl who lit up any room she entered. But more than professional or financial success, what really mattered was the peace we had, the certainty of living according to God's purposes, the joy of having a family built on the solid foundation of faith. And so, 5 years after that night when I had knelt in a hotel room, desperate and lost, asking God for guidance, I found myself standing on the pulpit of the same church where I had been converted, about to give my testimony. Clara was in the front row, holding Mary in her lap, Scott by her side, Pastor Michael encouraging me with a nod. I took a deep breath and began. "Brothers and sisters, I came here today to tell you about how God transforms lives, about how He writes stories that defy all human logic, about how His love overcomes all the barriers that the world puts up." I told everything, about the depression that almost destroyed me, about Clara showing me the way to God, about the fast, the dreams, the vision, about our decision to wait until marriage, honoring our faith even when every fiber of our bodies screamed otherwise. About the judgments, the malicious tongues, but also about the unwavering peace of knowing we were on the right path. "Many judged me," I said, my voice firm. "They said it was crazy, that I was having a crisis, that I was being deluded. But I knew, deep in my soul, that God had approved our union. And 5 years later, I can testify, following God's will, even when the world doesn't understand, is always the best choice." I looked at Clara, her eyes shining with tears of pride. This woman saved me in every possible way. She showed me God when I was blind. She gave me love when I was empty. She gave me purpose when I was lost. And together, we built a life that honors God, that testifies to His love, that proves that He still works miracles. Clara then joined me on the pulpit, leaving Mary with a friend from church. She took the microphone with trembling hands, but her voice came out clear. "I was a broken girl," she began. "Orphaned, alone, worthless in the eyes of the world. But God saw value in me, and He used this wonderful man to show me that. Ethan gave me much more than a home or financial security. He gave me dignity. He showed me that I was worthy of love, of respect, of happiness." She looked at me, tears streaming freely now. And our holy relationship, Namoro Santo, our decision to wait, to do everything the right way in God's eyes, that wasn't a burden. It was a gift. Because when we finally united as husband and wife, there was no guilt, no shame. There was only pure love, blessed, sanctified, and that made all the difference. The testimony we gave that day touched many lives. Young couples came up to us afterward, saying that our story inspired them to also wait, to also honor God in their relationships. Older, skeptical people admitted that our story had renewed their faith in true love. But above all, our story was ours. It was real. It was true. and it was a living testimony that God still works miracles, still transforms lives, still writes love stories that defy all human expectations. Today, when I look back at the journey we've taken, I'm amazed. From deep depression to full joy, from loneliness to true love, from spiritual emptiness to unwavering faith, God took two broken hearts and transformed them into something beautiful, something complete, something that glorifies His name. Clara is not just my wife. She is my best friend, my companion, my partner in every sense. She is the mother of my children, the co-pastor of our home, the person who challenges me to be better every day. And I, in turn, try every day to be worthy of her love, of the trust she placed in me. We learned so many lessons over the years. We learned that true love knows no social barriers, does not care about age or class differences. We learned that when God unites two people, no force on earth can separate them. We learned that waiting, that doing things the right way, even when it's difficult, always pays off in the end. But the most important lesson I learned was this: God never wastes our pain. He uses every tear, every brokenness, every moment of darkness to shape us, to prepare us for the miracles He has stored up for us. We just need to trust, even when we don't understand, especially when we don't understand. Clara taught me that faith is not the absence of doubt, but the choice to trust despite them. She taught me that true love is sacrificial, patient, kind. She taught me that the most precious treasures often come wrapped in the simplest packages. And God taught me that His ways are higher than ours, His thoughts deeper, His plans more perfect. He taught me that when we surrender control to Him, when we trust, even without seeing the full path, He leads us to destinations more wonderful than we ever dreamed. That's why today I live in constant gratitude. Gratitude for the brokenness that led to restoration. Gratitude for the loss that led to true gain. Gratitude for the love I found, for the family we built, for the life we live. And my prayer is that you, whoever you are, wherever you are, will also experience this transforming love. That you will also surrender to God and allow Him to write a beautiful story in your life. Because He wants to. He is ready. He is waiting. You just need to say yes. Heavenly Father, I come before you with a heart overflowing with gratitude. Thank you for never giving up on me, even when I had given up on myself. Thank you for sending Clara into my life, for using a simple girl to show me your extraordinary love. Thank you for every tear I shed, because each one watered the soil for the miracles you planted in my life. Thank you for the depression that broke me, because it was in the brokenness that I found your healing. Thank you for the criticisms and judgments, because they taught me that your approval is the only one that matters. Lord, bless everyone who heard our story today. Those who are broken, touch with your restoring hand. Those who are lost, show the way. Those who are afraid to follow your will because of what others will think, give them courage. May our story not glorify us, but you. May every person who hears our testimony be inspired not to admire our love, but to seek yours. Because all true love, all real miracles, all genuine transformation comes from you. Thank you for Clara, for Mary, for Scott, for every blessing you pour out on us daily. Help us to never forget where we came from, to never lose humility, to always live in a way that honors you. And to all who seek true love, who seek purpose, who seek transformation, reveal yourself to them as you revealed yourself to me. Show them that your plans are always better than ours, that your ways always lead to abundant life, that your love never fails. May we live every day as a testimony to your transforming power. May our family be a light in a dark world, hope for the desperate, proof that you still work miracles. In the name of Jesus, who gave His life so that we could have life in abundance, I pray. Amen. This is our story, a story of love that defies conventions, of faith that moves mountains, of a God who transforms lives. And if He did this for us, He can do it for you too. You just have to believe. You just have to trust. You just have to surrender. And then, get ready to see miracles.